Good evening, everyone. I hope all of you are doing well. Today, we are going live with an amazing author, one of my favorites, and the book that we're going to talk about is called Gup and Gossip from the Hills by Ganesh Seri. Now, we've published more than half a dozen books with Ganesh sir, but this one specifically is very special to me because every time I read it, I am cracking up. And so, in times like these, when things would feel a little gloomy and a little maybe a depressing, um, a book like this can really light you up. And so, today specifically, as I said earlier, we're going to talk about this book and have a wonderful, wonderful evening. A little bit about Ganesh Seri for the people who do not know him yet. And I just posted a picture of the Savoy Hotels, the Writers Bar image on my profile, wherein the writers who are associated with Masuri and or with Savoy have their plaques on top of them, or on that wall. So, and Ganesh Seli is just right at the center, so you will definitely not miss it the next time you go there. But a little bit about Ganesh Seli, who, for the people who don't know him yet. Masuri born Ganesh Seli has had a lifelong affair with the Garhwal Himalayas. Settled atop a spur in Landor, he has taught English and American literature at Masuri's postgraduate college. Having had the good fortune of living in the hills, he has seen the changing facets of the hill station. For 30 years and more, he has researched and trekked these mountains, capturing in words and film the awe-inspiring beauty of the hills. Several of his books have been translated into French, German, Dutch, Italian, and other foreign languages. Numerous periodicals, journals, magazines, films, books, and national awards are a testimony to his root. And as asked again, the book in concern today is called Gup and Gossips from the Hills. Now, I will not talk much about the book, which I'm sure the author will talk about, but I'm going to talk a little bit about what others have said about the book and the author. Now, Victor Banerjee, I'm sure all of you know him, says that Ganesh Seli has an elephantine memory and an infectious sense of humor, and I can vouch for that. Stephen Alter says, nobody is better equipped than Ganesh Seli to record the innuendos, whispered asides, unspoken truths, and the day-to-day falsehoods of a hill station's life. He has a well-attuned ear for Himalayan gup and gossip. And many more, it goes on. So we are just waiting for the author to join in. Good evening.
Hi, how are you doing?
I am good, but you need to adjust the camera a bit because I can see a lot of the roof. Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, you can see it. Not much to see these days. Boliye.
Oh, not really, not true. But how is it there? How is it in Masuri?
Oh, it's rained a lot and we are cut off with the bridges and the roads all sides. But it's typical. Soon it'll all pass. Like all good things shall pass.
Yeah. I was planning to actually come down because I'm getting claustrophobic at home. But then, yeah, you can't enter Himachal.
We're all claustrophobic these days, absolutely.
Yeah.
All of us.
Yeah. But that's why we did this session today because I'm well aware of your, as they put it, infectious sense of humor. And I wanted everybody to hear that and know for themselves.
Sure. Shoot. Let's go.
Okay. So I'm going to start with the first question. Now
Yeah.
you've written so many books on Mussoorie, as Mussoorie in Garhwal Himalayas as
Yeah.
the epicenter. And as a matter of fact, I know that you don't like coming down to the hill plains much.
And,
And yeah, and I have the feat of getting you down there once.
I'm a limpet. I'm stuck here. So this is
So
where it's all happened. Karma Bhumi hai.
yeah,
That's where
yeah.
my little lives in our little crucibles happen, in a little place like this. And I avoid going to the plains. It's too hot for me, not used to it. And it's all happening here. I miss out too much of the action if I leave.
Yeah.
Too much
So
action.
what are these actions that you're talking about? What is it about Mussoorie that actually holds you to that place? What are
Uh,
we missing out?
it's a small place, few people, and there's always action happening. I mean, if you keep your ears to the ground and keep your eyes open, I mean, it's all happening around you, non-stop, non-stop. There's action happening. Someone's running off with somebody, or
Ah, candles.
yeah. I think living up at Myla in the Sky has its own excitement. People think, we live. What do you do for fun? They have no idea of how much fun we have on this mountain, and it's non-stop. It doesn't stop. You just have to keep, like I said, keep your eyes open, ears to the ground, and you keep. It's always happening around here, no matter where.
Yeah.
It's all action, 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 and
Mm.
yeah, that's what's kept me back here. And
Mm.
this was, I had my chances of leaving town, going other places, but never took them. I thought this is where it's harder staying back and, making a dent, as it were, to the waters of life. And that's where I stayed back, without sounding too serious and profound about it.
No, no, now people, all of us want to go, but we are stuck. So we feel stuck in a city. So,
Huh? Yeah.
yeah.
But be careful, huh? We have a theory here. We have a
Uh-huh.
theory, Palas. We have a theory that if you're born here and you live here, you're sort of immune to it. Otherwise, the
Yeah.
lack of oxygen, the lack of
Lack
oxygen,
of?
the lack
Oh,
can cause people to behave very in strange ways. I see people come up here from the plains, and after a couple of days they get fidgety. What's this? Where's the action happening, buddy? And realize that the fuse here burns much slower, and
yeah.
the time, and they expect the action of the big city here. And
Mm.
I've had a lot of people, get in touch with me, especially from this during this pandemic from Bombay,
Mm.
saying,
Mm.
"Hey, up, can you find us, some place, Ganesh, you've heard of or know of, or and no way, no one turns up, flight nahi aa rahi hai,
Mm.
and that kind of thing. So, a lot of people, and those who do turn up and stay up here, especially in my part of town, can
Mm.
get slightly, to use a rougher word, brain damaged.
Yeah. No, that's true. Lack of oxygen can lead to brain damage, and we're all aware of it.
But in a more serious way now, I think it's a place where you can do your own thing. People let you be. No one interferes with your
Mm.
life. They're curious about what you're doing, but it stops there. I
Mm.
mean, no one's breaking your gate down to find out what you're up to. And people let
Mm.
you be. That's
Yeah.
quite satisfying, actually, in the long run, to be
Yes.
able to do your own thing, sing your own song. And because
Mm.
your song is for people who can hear, you can't
Mm.
sing a song to refuse to hear. But,
Mm.
nice sort of headspace, to be in. Mussoorie is very nice, especially Lando, where I live. Is
Yeah.
You have to understand that there were two separate we began as two separate hill stations,
Twin
and
City.
land where it all began, and
Yeah.
the during the Raj, they didn't want
Mhm.
civilians up India initially. So they
Yeah.
canned them to what we call Missouri. And in 200 these two have concertina into one. And we are now what you call Missouri. But I prefer telling people, hey, I don't live in Missouri, I live in Lando. Because Lando is different. Lando is very, very different from, we don't have the pressures of the, commerce, which is very essential, of course, but Bible. But we don't have those pressures of, hotels, tourists,
Yeah.
just 20 lakh people going through town in the season. That doesn't happen to us too much. And you often find us Lando people saying, "Aajkal bahut bheed ho gayi," 10 gaadi extra, bahut bheed ho gayi. So we are spoiled brats up here, and we stay in our corner of the planet, and we prefer it that way. And especially for creative people, it's one would notice. I've said this before, and at the risk of being repetitive, I'd say it again, is that their per density, I mean, in 1,000 acres, 1,040 acres, we have one big concentration of people in fine arts, films, music, writing, photography, all kinds of things, Yeah, you have, people just doing their own number here. And people let them, people let them. I mean, there was this, what's her name? She's from, she turned up here and she started, then she started, there's a lady who came up here, I mean, and she from Hyderabad, and she came up here and she started living on her own. Trouble came knocking when she started feeding the monkeys. And the monkeys, she had names for the monkeys. It was cool as long as it was restricted to her home. But then monkeys went onto the road below her house and started accosting school kids. So everybody got woke up, ki, bhai, ye bandaron ko khana khilati hai. And not on, so the monkeys were chased away and she was forbidden from, fraternizing with the monkeys. Now, I think that's a problem. I mean, where else would you find people getting worked up?
Yeah, about monkeys like that.
And yeah. And you have, we do have a monkey problem. I mean, of course, like all other, there are quite a lot of monkeys around that does happen on the mountain. Yeah.
Yes. So, from monkeys, let's come to humans.
Yes.
Evolution happens. So, so this book specifically, Gup and Gossip, as I've told you earlier also, this is one of my favorites and one of the books I go to when I am slightly feeling low or not even low, I just need a laugh. And there's so many stories, entertaining stories in this book. Could you tell us a few, just a few, or let me put it this way. So now every chapter begins with some beautifully Nepali, Newari, or Garhwali quotes and epigrams, and let me read out a couple of these epigrams, and perhaps you can tell stories accordingly. In sync with them. So the first one, which I thought, which I've written down, is a Garhwali proverb: "Choto ko bado, bado ko baag, baag ko jibalo, jibalo ko aag."
Choto ko bado, bado ko baag, baag ko jibalo, jibalo ko aag. It's an old one. It's just that everybody gets their comeuppance, you get stuck with something or the other, it means choto is small, small meets the big, it's the leopard. The leopard gets caught in the snare. And the snare is destroyed by the forest fire. So everybody gets their comeuppance. And, we have so many tales up here of people getting their comeuppance, I remember there's this famous one in which, in one of our, one of our schools, there was this lonesome head of the institution who was at one point in his career having trouble with the, class 3 and 4 employees, wage raise, that kind of issue. At this time, he was also on the side carrying on, having an affair with one of the teachers there.
Okay.
And so he would head off in the evenings. These boys noticed the strike wasn't going anywhere. And the strike wasn't going anywhere. So they would poach on him. They poached on him. They waited till he got to her cottage, and they go style absolutely Che Guevara. They surrounded the and they knocked on the door. And they knocked on the door, and nothing. There was nothing happening. They couldn't find him, and they were really embarrassed. They said the chap is here, and then I remember this story. There was this cook, this big tub of lard, I called him, and he's got a spoiled spot. He went to the cupboard, and in this steel almara was the principal standing upside down. He closed himself for no reason. He panicked. I think poor chap panicked. And, my friend Bill Aiken heard about it. He said, "What a great ad for steel cupboards."
I know.
बड़ों को बाग को जिबालो को आग. No matter where you go, something catches up with you. No matter how high you are, so you find your one, barreling down at you sooner than later, and that's always the thing that I have noticed in my few years up here on this mountain. Yeah.
I think that holds true even on the plains, but yes, we don't have a proverb for it. The next one is a Nepali proverb.
Oh, which one are you trying?
This is the Hazar Gagri ko मूछ बंदा गना सकींचा एक मनुष्य को मूछ बंदा गना सकीना.
Yeah, you can understand that because it's easier to plug 1,000 pitchers, but one man's you can't shut. That's about gossips. Every gossip is such a even nice gossip. People second guess you. What you're doing, and it always begins, over nothing almost. Nothing, and then it goes loud like a Chinese whisper. Where you begin, where you end are two separate things. Two separate things. Where you can begin with nothing, and by the end, snowball, it's turned into an avalanche, and will burn if you're not careful. It always goes around, Oh, that guy.
I know one of the stories that you told me on this Chinese whispers things. Do you remember at Savoy, we were sitting and when you told me this story about the Chinese whisper?
Yeah. These Chinese whispers are pretty elite.
Can you tell us that story, please?
Which story did I tell you?
I think it was maybe your father's friend or somebody who knew.
Oh, yeah. One time, when we were small and growing up, and I remember one of my sisters took a hitch in a rickshaw at the other end of town, which is 6-7 kilometers away in Company Bagh. Before she got home, word had got कि आज rickshaw में बैठी हुई थी. It was not done. A local does not sit in a rickshaw. It's only the tourists, dumb tourists, who get into. Locals are not allowed. Locals, and poor thing, she harmlessly thought no, कहीं नहीं पता चलेगा. और जब तक घर पहुंची उससे पहले मुझे पता था. I said, अच्छा आज रिक्शा में घूम रही थी. She said, oh, how did you find out? Probably, someone, she must have got off the rickshaw, and before that somebody got here and said, आज तो वो वहाँ घूम रही थी रिक्शा में. And she just taken a hitch in a rickshaw from Company Bagh, and 7 kilometers away. And the word got to us without telephones, without mobiles. It's an era when you had nothing. And so someone must have noticed, pattern is broken. And breaks, and the story begins. Yeah. Yeah.
If that had happened, it would be a scandal in India, in Delhi.
Scandalous, not allowed. not loud.
No. No. Okay. Now a serious question. Now,
Yeah.
how come writers, you've written so many books, you've covered the length and breadth of entire Garhwal Himalayas and Mussoorie and Landor and everything. There's this one, this is a question that I was thinking for a really long time. How come writers have this special affinity for the hills? Um, could you please elaborate the role of Himalayas in your books?
Oh, the Himalayas, the mighty Himalayas. I mean, Trisha, they are my background. And years ago, when I was struggling with, the old days, analog days,
Hmm.
dinosaur call them, when we were into analog photography. And,
Hmm.
getting the film was a drag, smuggling lenses in was a drag. There was no open general license to get things, and you had to get, एक lens, you had to tell somebody lens this and
Hmm.
Atithi, it had to be sent to Veer Savarkar Marg. I still remember the
Hmm.
address, like laser burnt in my brain. 483
Hmm.
Veer Savarkar Marg used to be the Kodachrome lab in
Hmm.
Bombay. And things were really hard, and availability of material, And so
Hmm.
I remember that and it's not name dropping. Once I came home, Chappie sleeping in my front room. It was middle of summer, and that was usual for us, So he was sleeping here, and I just went on, and I was tired from college, and
Hmm.
it was the great Raghuveer Singh. And when he woke up, he had come with a nephew of mine from Gangotri, and
Hmm.
to him, bus ho gaya, yaar. I saw his equipment, and I said, I'm never going to do photography. You know what he said to me, Trisha? It stayed
No.
with me all my life. God bless his soul. He said to me, "You must be mad." He said, "You've got the most majestic 1,200 miles of the Himalayas
Hmm.
behind as your backyard. I have
Hmm.
flown to Paris
Hmm.
to take one picture of the Gangotri at Gaurikund, where
Yeah.
where
Hmm.
goes off those satin
Hmm.
granite blocks polished into
Hmm.
satin. And he had actually found a wide lux camera. These are totally terms that are from the analog days. A wide
Hmm.
lux would be what you would call ultra wide today, and
Yeah.
film moved along with the lens of the camera. They were made in Nippon. They never were made in Japan. They were made in Nippon and IPPO. And he'd come back all the way from Paris for that one picture. And he said to me, he said, this is your backyard, Ganesh. The best work
Yeah.
is done by people who investigate their backyard. And it stayed with me. I went
Ah.
photography with vengeance, and it has I mean, I have been able to give back to these mountains which have given me everything, and that's the way
Hmm.
I see it, is that the mountains, most of us just write about it, or find it romantic, but to me the mountains are a part of my soul, a part of my being,
Hmm.
and they are just magnificent. I mean, anytime, uh, I know people senior to me by at least 10, 15 years, who have all their lives come back to see, to look at these mountains. I remember Jack Gibson, who
Yeah.
set up, Jack set up Mayo College Ajmer. John Martin set
Hmm.
up school. Jack went and set up, Jack Gibson is a legend in mountaineering. And
Hmm.
Jack, I was doing a book, and my publisher said, "Go find a picture of the Paddy Wilson coin."
Hmm.
And I said, "Okay." And I said, "Where am I going to find a photo?" Then I heard Jack Gibson was here, and he
Yeah.
was Princess Sita of Kapurthala at the other end of town. I went to see Jack, and he said, I said, "Jack, may I have a black and white picture of the coin for use in my book?" And he
Yeah.
said, "Okay, what do you do?" I said, "I'm a photographer, sir." So he said, "Okay, we make a deal. I'll send you a picture, and you will every Christmas photograph the Bandar Pooch. It's on my Garhwal book, on the cover of the book that
Yeah.
you published
Yeah,
is
the one.
that beautiful picture of Bandar Poonch, massive.
Hmm.
And you know
Hmm.
what? Every year I kept my word. I sent him that picture from there. It's only later that I found out that Jack and Holdsworth, all from Doon School, were the pioneers of mountaineering in India. They did it not in crampons and Reeboks and Nikes. They did it in canvas jungle shoes, ordinary shoes they wore. And thrice he went up to the edge, to walk that ridge. Can you see the
Yes.
mountain? To walk that
Yes.
ridge. And the third
Yes.
time, Tenzing Norgay was his Sherpa. And someone fell ill. And Jack volunteered to go back. He said to Tenzing, you do this. And he was
Yeah.
never able to cross that, do that traverse of Bandar Poonch. And it stayed with him. Anyway, he went back. And one day, in an 8 rupee, there used to be envelopes that, registry ke lifafe hote. They were on with ordinary 8 rupee printed postage. And I opened it inside a cardboard coin, inside a cardboard, between two cardboards, were two party coins that he gave me. And he said, this come from Garhwal, it must go back to the mountains. And treasure them. They are precious to me as a memory of Jack Gibson. And so that's what the mountains mean to me. Mountains are my spirit. That's where I come from. That's where my roots are. And most of the time, they're not too far, my roots. I just go back and I, touch base all the time. And it keeps you so, all of those peaks, not just mountaineering in the sense of, mountains are not just rock and snow and glacier.
No.
They're much more than that. They're like a living university. You go from the tropical, subtropical, the hills, the first foothills. You go beyond the first foothill. There are ranges after ranges and ranges. You have to go find yourself, every time. And it has been, it is just for me. It is been a life changer. These mountains, good, yeah.
Absolutely. That was quite very interesting story. So every time I talk to you, I speak to you, I learn a new story, and that gives me goosebumps. And talking of goosebumps, there is something else which gives me this is uncanny thing. It's the Garhwali humor. I don't know. I don't find that kind of humor in here. I think we're on the plains, we're getting quite serious. It's quite hot, so we take it quite seriously, our jokes quite seriously. But the fact that once you go there, I see you.
Yeah. Come.
I see you and others, everybody talking, and there's so much laughter, there's so much humor, and it's amazing. And how is it? How is it so different? What is it about the Garhwali humor?
It's understated. It's not slapstick. Our humor is not slapstick. And there's nothing slapstick about living in the mountains, believe me. It's a struggle, daily struggle for existence. And there is, without getting too caught up in the politics of it, it is a daily struggle. Life. And so people learn to mock the thunder, laugh at the rain, and you laugh at everything, and you look for something funny in any situation, and without really losing track of where you're going. And we, all our proverbs. I could carry on forever. Even the way we taught Barakdi to children in Garhwal, if that you're teaching children, don't take food from somebody who goes and says, "Isko maine khana khilaya hai." But, like you have in Hindi, we have our own dhod, dhang dangadi dungi par kutto ni rakhna, which means do not put your foot on a rock that moves. Dhod, dhang adi dungi par kutto ni rakhna. Huh? It's profound. They are teaching the kids not just alphabets. You're teaching
Mhm.
them something that has folk wisdom, and
Mm.
all our proverbs.
Mm.
I plan to someday,
Mm.
hopefully, do a book on Himalayan proverbs, and
Mm.
that is where our folk wisdom comes from, and our sense of humor. It's
Mm.
my father, I mean, he would never get angry. He would always sort of laugh it off and say, "Where have you been today?" And he had
Uh,
several names for me. I will not tell you what those were, and they were. But he would, meaning I was just, wasting my time somewhere, and he would always, part of that humor. Always, I
yeah.
cannot anything serious about him. He would always, yeah, yeah. When he came, I mean, when my father came to this town, Trisha,
Mm.
he was just another 16-year-old, walking out of those mountains and trying to make, become part of the cash economy and
Mm.
the money home. And which even to date, I mean, a lot of people leave home in the mountains to go and make some money
Mm.
in the. And
Mm.
anyway, he would he would go from he came here. His first job was of reading a meter reader, and he would read
Okay.
people's meters. And he would come back in the evening, I remember, and we would all gather around him. आज क्या हुआ था? And he said,
Mm.
"अरे यार, जो हाथी सिंह के कुत्ते थे ना, उसने मेरे पे कुत्ते छोड़ दिए." And he never got along with her, and she would let her dogs loose on my father. She didn't
Okay.
want she didn't like him. She didn't like the meter reader. So my father complained to the chairman of the electricity board. It was owned by the municipal council here. And
Uh,
I remember father telling me, आज मैंने complaint कर दी Ramkishan
mm.
Verma se. And next day there was a notice issued to her, and the litigation thing for obstructing government servant on duty. She had the book thrown at her. Okay, hang on, Trisha, be patient. Then
Uh,
15 years, I think 10 years later, I was walking back from, I remember the story. My father had come home. I followed the dogs going at
mm.
him, gate, and
Mm.
his name. And then I was coming back from school, and suddenly I heard a gruff voice, this lady up there. He said, "Hey, boy, what's your name?" So I said, "Ganesh Seli, ma'am." We were taught how to speak to people
Uh,
older than. I said,
uh,
"Ganesh Seli, ma'am." She said,
uh.
"Are you that Mukandram Seli?" I said, "Yes." That's my father. She said, "Isn't he dead yet?" She had not forgotten my father. And, she had not forgotten that litigation that followed the letting loose of her dogs on my father. She used to breed dogs, you see. And,
Yeah.
yeah, so, my father always, I guess, one inherited that thing of always laugh it off, let it
Yeah.
go. Don't
Mm.
take to heart. And it's too,
Yeah.
ephemeral life is too temporary to be taken too seriously.
Absolutely. That's what we all need to do.
Yeah,
This
yeah.
pandemic is going to go, but we have to live. So,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. So, we are actually running a little late. We are
Yeah.
coming to the end of our session today. This was supposed to be a sneak peek, but I have one more question.
What?
Um, One more, last question. Now
Okay.
you're born in Missouri and you've lived all your life there. How is it different? And now this is from your book. Like this is a precursor to your book, The Wanderings in Garhwal Himalayas. I think we'll do that session next. Um, how has it changed since 1991? The liberalization, globalization, and privatization that happened. How is Missouri now, and how was it back then? Has it changed a lot?
It has changed. It has changed for those of us, and
Hmm.
those of us who grew up here. There's a big
Hmm.
change. You can feel the pressure of population. You
Hmm.
can feel the the difference in people's attitudes are changing, and people tend to the pressure, I guess, on the youngsters is much more today than it was in my time. We lived in the days of innocence, and old days, like there were fewer. For example, take any part of it. The people would get. I mean, it's like talking about the age of the dinosaurs and the age of the Sputnik to talking. It's just it's two different worlds. People used to dress up and go out on the mall. Nowadays, I see Auntie G's at the halwai. I went out one evening with a bunch of friends, and we were coming back home, and there were Auntie G's in their nighties and their negligees, drinking doodh jalebi. Unthinkable in our times. Unthinkable. And yet, I guess the only thing that has stayed the same are the people who play cards. They played cards then, they play cards now, and I could do a whole book on the tradition of this. I won't call it gaming in Mussoorie, as it were, and it somehow lent itself to that kind of thing, and now they do it more time because it's against the law and all that stuff, but. The clubs have closed down. It's another world out there, and I've seen lots of changes. And the pressure of the millennium is up. The millennial kids are different, and we wouldn't think today. We wouldn't think in those days of having sitting in what have now become very popular. Are the car bars. You open your car, dicky, styrofoam glasses, booze going. No chance. I mean, in our times, it was unthinkable at Infra Dig. And it didn't happen in our times. And it's happened. And I see it now. It's like a game, no? And that has changed. And a friend of mine, Mr. Rupi Lal, used to say, "Pehle hotel hote the, ab hotel hote hain sare." King, Dollyville, Savoy, Hackman's, Spittles, to becoming, rink-a-dink hotels where the room is so small that the furniture has to be usually painted on the walls. And the walls are so thin. That if you order eggs, you'll get boiled, fried, omelets, 4 kinds of eggs will be on your table. And those were great days, and they used to be. I miss those times, really. The old days, I do miss them quite a bit, But I guess that's the nature of things, as you get older, the past has lost its edges, and the present has its little thorns, and they sort of more traffic, much more traffic, and Visha, you must have noticed that when you were here last. There's so much more, and the number of tourists, the number of people, and so many people. Question of livelihood. So it's all right for someone like me to say, itni bheed nahi honi chahiye. But the reality is, we need the tourists. The tourists need us, and meaning. And so it carries on, and things have changed, like I said, imperceptibly, and times have changed, and like they say, nothing stays the same, and mercifully,
You actually mentioned that it's in the book also. There is this photograph of, I think, Ruby Wine Shop, and the last line on top of that is, I think, everything is ephemeral.
Is Trisha, who grew up in what I was calling Ruby Wine Shop. It's pretty thin, that veil that I threw there.
Or one last question. Do we have a version of, like Texas Hold'em poker, do we have a version of Mussoorie's poker or some card game?
Mussoorie's
Or we should have.
Come again?
Like Texas Hold'em poker, which came from Texas.
No. What we have, the Nepalese who the workers here, the labor, they would play Mang Patta. Mang Patta would be,
Mangpatta.
Mang Patta would be very simple. You ask for a card, I ask for a card. If it's inside, you take it. If it's outside, it's gone. So what's on the table? Hey, hang on, watch out. But one time was at King Craig, where my college used to be, where I used to teach, and there was this, the whole community of these chaps had turned up around the Shara, and there was a guy with a lot of garlands around his neck, marigold garland, looked like a neta, and he had a garlands around his neck, and he was wearing new, bilkul latte ke topi, pajama and a kurta, ill-fitting, and I said, what is happening here? Is this guy getting married? They said, no. They played Mang Patta 2 days ago, and this guy won everything. The rest are broke. They're not going to go home. He's the only one going home. And that's how viciously they used to play it. And during the days of the Raj, people would go to a place which is 7 kilometers from my house, 7 kilometers in Mussoorie, to play into the territory of the Raja of Tiri, which is a place called Tuakholi. That was the gambling. And John Lang in his describes it. It was one of the biggest gaming. He calls it the gaming den north of Delhi, largest. It's not on that scale now. Now about छुपे छापा खेल लेते हैं. That's about all. ऐसा नहीं है. Yeah.
So I'm actually working on a biography of John Lang right now. I have the manuscript also. This I have to read. This tome of a manuscript I have to read right now. So we're going to hopefully come out next year. I'm going to send you the first copy of it. So thank you very much. We'll have to, as every good thing comes to an end.
John Lang.
Sorry?
John Lang was defended the Rani of Jhansi in that accession thing. That is common knowledge. But remember, she a pearl encrusted carpet, which nobody has been able to trace. She gave it as a gift.
The pearl encrusted carpet is?
It was given to John Lang.
Oh.
Jhansi in gratitude for defending her. And she gave it as a gift to him. And strange enough, very little is known of where his manuscripts went, where his stuff went. We know nothing about his wife. We know nothing about his children. Sorry, my dog. That's part of Himalaya. That's my rugged Damru. He's somebody who's probably straight into our gate. And John Lang I was telling you about. Yeah.
In fact, I thought a couple of years back, even the grave wasn't known. I read in the book. Sorry?
Yeah. Ruskin found the grave years ago.
So I read it in one of the books that he had found it. He had to do a lot searching and thing. It was an unmarked grave.
It says bar at law.
Yeah.
It says on top of his grave, I photographed. I photographed the grave, and there's a plaque in Christchurch with the Australian High Commission has memory of John Lang. All that. Good fun.
Yes. Thank you very much for that lovely session. I am sure everybody had a great time, and all of you are going to buy this book now. I am shamelessly asking everybody to buy this book now because I love it. I want people to read it.
Thank you, Trisha. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. So, see you. I'll speak to you soon.
Now
I have to speak to you about the photograph of John Lang's grave. So yes. I'll call you up tomorrow.
Okay, Baba. Bye.
Bye.